What's going on, guys? FadeitLuie here, bringing you guys a brand new video. We're going to be doing a high taper on my boy, so stay tuned. We're going to start off at the back taper using our Goat FX to create our first guideline. Now that we're done budding them out, we can move on to our no guard all the way open and create our second guideline. We're then going to use the lever midway and all the way close to help us erase that initial guideline we created with our trimmers. Now that we're done erasing our initial guideline, we can move on to our one guard all the way open and create our third guideline. We're also going to use the lever midway and all the way close to soften up this line, get it ready for the half guard. Now that we're done softening up the line with the one guard and its lever, we can move on to the half guard to erase it completely. This is going to help us connect the no guard all the way open to the one guard all the way open. Now that we're done with our lower guards, we can move on to our two guard all the way open and create our fourth guideline. You want to flick out as much as possible because we are getting into the darker areas. Again, we're going to use the lever midway and all the way close to help soften up this line, get it ready for the 1.5 guard. Now that we're done with our 2 guard and our 1.5 guard, we can move on to our 3 guard all the way open and flick out as much as possible. Moving on to our 4 guard, we're going to do the same exact thing and flick out as much as possible using the corners of the blade. Always remember to use your comb to lay the hair down every time you're done using your guards. Sometimes there's still a faint line after using your 1.5 guard, so switching over to your 1 guard all the way open and using its corners would definitely help. Now that we're done with the back taper, we can move on to the sides, and we're starting off with our Goat FX creating our first guideline. Moving on to our foil shaver, this is going to help us remove the stubble and make a clean blend. Now that we're done budding them out, we can move on to our no guard all the way open and create our second guideline. Again, we're going to use the lever midway and all the way close to help us erase our initial guideline we created with our trimmers. Once you're done erasing that initial guideline, you can move on to your 1 guard all the way open and create our third guideline. Again, we're going to use the lever midway and all the way close to help us soften up this line and get ready for the half guard. Now that the line is soft enough, we can move on to our half guard and erase the line completely. Again, this is going to help us connect our no guard all the way open to the 1 guard all the way open. Now that we're done with our lower guards, we can move on to our 2 guard all the way open and create our fourth guideline. This is going to help us prepare for the 1.5 guard, especially when we use our lever. Moving on to our clipper of a comb, we're going to debulk using our horizontal cutting, and we're also going to debulk the sides of the ears to prepare for our lineup. It makes it a lot harder to line up the edge of the ear, especially when there's a lot of hair there. Now that we're done debulking, we can move on to our NST outliners and begin to line up the edge of the ear. Be sure not to press too hard with the corners of the blade because you could bite them with the teeth of the trimmer. Now that we're done lining up the edge of the beard, we're going to go ahead and go back to the back taper and detail as much as possible. I hope you guys are enjoying the video. Please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. Also, be sure to check out the daily live streams. Moving on to the beard, we're going to debulk with our one guard all the way open, making sure everything's nice and even. Now that we're done debulking the beard, we can move on to the sideburn and begin the blend. I usually start off with my no guard all the way open and work my lever all the way down to 0. Now we're moving on to our half guard and we're going to continue to blend into that one guard all the way open. Now that we're done with the blend, we can move on to our NST outliners and line up the edge of the beard. When lining up the bottom of the beard, I always make sure I put the headrest all the way up and lay their head down. You also want to be careful not to dig too deep because you could bite them with the teeth of the trimmer and irritate the skin, especially near the neck area when there's looser skin. Since we're done lining up his beard, we're going to move on to the top and saturate it and put a little bit of product in there. I'm using Shea Moisture's Curl Enhancer. Now we're going to prepare the front line and his edges for a lineup. I'm going to put a little bit of gel to hold the hair up and separate the edges from his top hair. Now that the edges are separated from the top, we're going to go with the grain with the no guard all the way open and debulk as much as possible. Now that we're done preparing the lineup, we're going to move on to our NST outliners and work our way to the sides. We're going to go back to the side taper with our 1.5 guard all the way open and debulk as much as possible in detail. always like starting off at the middle and working my way to the sides. It's always a more accurate lineup. Now that we're done lining them up, we can move on to our Turkish razor and Derby Premium blades and make them as crispy as possible. But before we do that, we're going to make sure we apply some shave gel so that the razor could glide better. When using a razor, you always want to make sure you stretch the skin as much as possible with your opposite hand and keep it at a 45-degree angle. This lowers the likelihood of you cutting someone.